Orange is the New Black is where we dive in. Every episode we'll discuss, even the scenes that made us cuss. So follow me, join the spree. I try to space for two E's. Spoilers everywhere, so be warned. Super fans, please come on board. Susie's special mind and all these ideas make us rethink if everything's truly as it is. Oh, 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 oh. Oh, 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 oh. Oh, 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 oh. Nah. Oh, 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 oh.
Hello, and welcome to Yadda Space. I'm Yadda, and I'm so glad you're here. This is a rewatch podcast for the Netflix TV show Orange is the New Black. Every Tuesday, I'll be recapping one episode of the show with you, but please keep in mind that this is a rewatch podcast. That means that there may be spoilers about things that happen in the future episodes, so please be warned. This is definitely a spoiler zone. On today's episode of our Orange is the New Black rewatch, we will be discussing Season 1, Episode 4, titled Imaginary Enemies. In this episode, the IMDb synopsis states, Piper gets to know her stern new roommate, and the inmates prepare for a farewell party. Well, that's really short. Okay, that's a little synopsis to let us know what to expect. Also in this episode, we will be getting a backstory from Miss Claudette. So we will see a little bit more about her, what makes her who she is, and we will even be able to see the reason why she's in prison. The director for this episode is Michael Trim. He's best known for his work on the TV shows Weeds and Parks and Rec. And fun fact, he was also the director for the very first episode of Orange as well. So let's see what he does with this one. The writer for this episode is Gary Lennon, and he was also one of the show's producers during the first season. He's best known for producing other popular shows like Power and Justified. IMDb rates this episode at an 8, which sounds to me like that's a really good rating. I think it's the first episode of the series that's been rated at an 8, so we'll see what that's all about as we jump into this episode. Don't forget, at the end of this pod, I will be giving my personal episode rating, so I also encourage you guys to go ahead and write down your episode ratings in the comments so that we can get an idea of what we the people think is actually the rating on this episode. All right, let's get into it. When the episode opens up, we see a bunch of pads on the floor and Piper is cleaning up the pee that Suzanne left at her doorstep. If we remember, the last episode ended with Suzanne peeing at basically the door of Piper and Miss Claudette's bunk area. So now Piper is up, she's on her hands and knees, cleaning up the pee with maxi pads, and Miss Claudette is pissed. Miss Claudette is like, okay, you're wiping it up, great, but like, how are you going to disinfect? Piper's like, I don't know. I've never wiped up another person's pee before. And so Miss Claudette says, oh, what a privileged life you've led. Like, Miss Claudette is so upset because she's saying that she has to be up in 3 hours. And she says to Piper, like she's her mother, I ought to knock you into Tuesday for bringing that baggage to my house. Oh, Piper is getting really overwhelmed here. She's like, I did not ask for this. I don't even know what to do. And Miss Claudette says, you need to clean up the piss. That's what you need to do. Clean it up. And Piper's like, not just that. Like, I don't know what to do about the pee, the stalker, your anger. Like, it's a lot right now. It's a whole lot right now. And I'm just trying to deal. And she's not even allowed to use the bathroom until the morning. So she's cleaning up the pee and she can't even go wash her hands. So that's disgusting, and I feel for her. She says, I have to sleep with stranger pee on me, which, gross. I don't wish that on anybody. But Miss Claudette has absolutely no empathy, no sympathy. She goes, oh, cool. It's hard for you, little girl lost. And that leads us into our first Miss Claudette backstory, where she is a little girl. Perhaps she's a little girl lost. She looks to be a young teen, maybe 14, 15, 16, up in there. When a young Miss Claudette and the man that she's with get upstairs, the first thing that we hear is a woman yelling at other young girls. Miss Claudette sees the woman yelling at a young girl about her age, and she's telling the young girl that she needs to go and iron her dress, and if she's not ready in 5 minutes, she's going to send her back on the next boat. Boat to where? I'm not quite sure yet. But the threat of being sent back to wherever she's from over just being late for 5 minutes sounds a little bit drastic and probably terrifying for these young girls if they're getting threatened like this regularly. So that's when we get the name of the young man that Miss Claudette is with. His name is Baptiste. The woman explains to Miss Claudette that she will be working for her in order to pay off her parents' debt. So it looks like Baptiste is here to drop Miss Claudette off as an indentured servant to this woman in order to pay off some debt of her parents, which, I mean, Miss Claudette is not that old. This must be at least the 70s. And to be selling off your child to pay for a debt in the 70s sounds crazy. I don't know how she got in this predicament, but I feel bad for her. She's leaving her family to go work for this woman in order to pay off a debt. The woman passes Baptiste some money out of an envelope in exchange for what? I don't understand. If she's here to pay off a debt, why he's being paid for dropping her off. Is she actually here to be paying off a debt, or is she being sold by Baptiste for some reason? I'm actually not quite sure. If anybody's aware of the clarity of this backstory, please put it in the comments and help illuminate the situation, because right now it just looks like she's being sold into child slavery. Baptiste turns to Miss Claudette and promises her that he will not let anything bad happen. But Miss Claudette looks extremely worried. Back at the prison, Piper enters their dorm area and she has a big box of stuff. She tells Trisha that her friends went a little overboard. I guess they sent her a bunch of things to help her be more comfortable here. And Trisha's like, yeah, when I first got here, my friends sent a lot of stuff too, but yeah, you should enjoy it while it lasts. I guess her friends are no longer sending her things, which is pretty sad. That's when Miss Claudette interjects and says to Trisha, listen, you need to leave. And you know what? Take some books with you. Go educate yourself. Then she looks at Piper and she says, not that it helped this one. Like, it's true. Piper is an educated woman, and yet she's still here in prison. I guess her education didn't quite help her avoid this predicament. Piper tells Miss Claudette that she got a new job assignment, to which Miss Claudette says nothing, but she looks over and sees Piper unpacking her things from her friends, and she's like, listen, I don't like mess. Piper says, oh, sorry, I'll organize it, don't worry. Miss Claudette's like, book mess, piss mess. She's like, you need to take care of it. So Miss Claudette is not digging Piper's vibe. Piper is making a mess of Miss Claudette's area, and she is not taking kindly to that. In the next scene, we are in the electric shop. This is the location of Piper's work assignment. She will be working in the electric shop. C.O. Luschek is the guard who runs this shop, and the other inmates that we see in here are Nicky and Janae and Trisha, and I think that's Flocka back there. So Luschek decides to explain to the newbies that the tools are in the cage, and in order to get a tool out, you have to turn in a chit, which is a little like metal circle thing on a key ring, just a little token basically. So each of the little metal circles has a number on it, and the number is connected to each inmate. So that way, if the number chit is missing, they will know who has the tool. That's when Flocka gets up to do a demonstration. She's saying, all of my chits have a number 7 on it. So when I go to the cage, I give him my chit, my number 7, I get my tool. When I'm done, I give the tool back and I get my chit back. And that's just how it works. Simple and easy. Piper's like, excuse me, Mr. Luschek, I believe there's a mistake because I asked to be put in the education program. And she's explaining, I think I'd be more useful there. You know, I was a teacher's assistant in college, a TA. To which Luschek says, what's that, like tits and ass? Oh, Luschek, thank you for introducing yourself to us very clearly. Absolutely inappropriate. He laughs like Beavis and Butthead. Piper's like, listen, I don't know the first thing about electrical work. To which Luschek says, repeat after me, don't electrocute yourself. There you go. That's the first thing. He hands her a giant manual. He says, and you can read this. Then he hands her a broken lamp and says, and you can fix this. So once the light turns on, you can call it a day. Luschek is like, read, fix the lamp, and then go away. That's it. That's the job. That's when Janae says, jobs pay. This is bullshit. Luschek is like, well, you're making 11 cents an hour, so you are being paid, but are they being paid? You know? Janae's like, it's bullshit. I'm not picking cotton. Like, this is slave labor. Get out of here with this. To which Luschek says, oh, you're one of them. God, Luschek. Janae's like, you bet your ass I am. Like, yup, I am. And what? What of it? I'm still not doing it. Luschek gives in and allows Janae to be the one to sit in the cage and hand out the tools. That makes Janae happy. She's like, you're speaking my language. That's what I'm talking about. So she's perfectly fine sitting in the cage to hand out the tools. That's when Trisha walks over to the cage. She says to Janae that she needs a wrench. Janae grabs the wrench. Trisha gives the chit. Janae collects the chit and gives Trisha the wrench. And Loose check claps. He's like, voila, the monkey can dance. The monkey? Janae turns around and looks at him like, what'd you call me? The monkey? For real? So that's clearly a racist statement to refer to a person as a monkey, let alone a Black person as a monkey. I take extreme offense to that. And he seems to be completely unbothered. He's like, yeah, whatever. You lose a tool, you go to the shoe. That's that. I said what I said. And he concludes with, time for my nap, because Loose Check is probably the laziest guard in the prison. In the next scene, we're in the multi-purpose room, and we see Red passing Mercy a note with an address on it, and she's telling her to just tell them that she was trained by Red in her kitchen. So it looks like Red's hooking Mercy up with a job. Oh, Red. Red says they'll pay you shit and treat you like a Chinese working on the railroad, which another offensive comment, this time to the Chinese population. It is prison. I know they get very racial, but hearing these stereotypes and these disrespectful comments it's going to be a lot, and it's going to be throughout, but it's pretty typical of prison from what I hear. Mercy is super appreciative of Red for hooking her up with this. And Red's like, it's fine, don't worry about it, but don't come back here. Do well out there and don't end up back here. Red says, I hope you stay out because most of these girls are in and out of here so much it's like they're fucking the place. Clever, but it's also quite sad. That means that the recidivism or the rate in which the women return back to prison is pretty high here. So even though they might get out, many of them will end up returning pretty shortly after. And we actually will see that happen in the prison. And it's quite sad how that goes down, but we'll get there. Yoga Jones asks Mercy if she can have her combs. Once these women are leaving prison, they usually like to give out whatever they have to their friends and family within the prison. Yoga Jones then holds up a big t-shirt, which looks like it's too big for Mercy. And Yoga Jones is saying, well, what about this? Can I have this? And Mercy says, you'll swim in that. Like, it's way too big for you. Yoga Jones says, well, I was just going to cut it up for yoga straps, just use it as fabric to help me with my yoga. To which Mercy's like, okay, whatever. Boo gets really offended by that. She's like, whatever. That's my shirt. I gave you that shirt. So Boo is upset because Mercy doesn't seem to care about the fact that Boo gave her that shirt. But looks like Boo and Mercy used to date, but Mercy seems to be completely over Boo. She's like, I know you miss me, but you have no control over me anymore. So say what you want, but I'm going to do what I'm going to do. And you'll deal. Mercy tells Boo, you don't run me no more. She goes on to say, I know you miss my ass, but Trisha's been taking real good care of it. And pretty soon it's going to be walking right out those doors. So she's really being forward with Boo in her face, telling her, listen, you do nothing for me anymore. So I don't want to hear it. Before Boo walks away, she tells Mercy she better watch her back. That's when Morello comes over to Red and she's like, what's the drama here? Like, what's going on? Red says Mercy should know better than to fuck with Boo this close to her date. Which, yeah, it seems like when people are about to get out of prison, any little thing can get them more time. So it's really important to be very, quote unquote, good, well-behaved, have no problems with anybody or any guards when it's getting close to your time to leave, because you don't want to get extra time. You're trying to get out of there. So the fact that Mercy is messing around with Boo right now, it's not very smart, because Boo could easily do something to where Mercy gets in trouble and gets extra time added to her sentence. They call that stealing her date, meaning stealing her date to get out. Morello's like, oh shit, you think she's going to try something? And Red says, well, she stole Shelly's date. Red explains that the week before Shelly was due to get out, Boo had somebody jump her. And because she had somebody jump her, her girl Shelly fought back. And that ended up costing her 2 more years down at max, which is absolutely brutal. So it looks like Boo's done this before. And if she's done this before, it really is dumb of Mercy to be messing with Boo right now. I think she should be being really, really nice to everybody during this time. In the next scene, we see Chapman sitting in the electrical workshop and she's trying to figure out this lamp. She's holding her screwdriver and she just looks totally confused. That's when Nicky comes over to her and she's like, hey, you ready for lunch? And Piper's like, yes, God, please. Yes, please. I'm ready for lunch. So Piper hops up, she throws her screwdriver in her pocket and she heads out the door with Nicky. That's going to be a problem, but we'll get there. They're sitting right outside of the electrical shop and Nicky says to Piper, you like your lunch? Piper says, I'm not complaining. To which Nicky says, you learn fast. Yeah, Don't ever complain about food anymore. Piper's learned her lesson. Good for you. At the table, Nicky asks Piper, so how's your mental health doing? Which, that's a very deep question to be asking. Very kind to check in on her in that way. And Piper opens up to her. She says, I keep thinking I'm going to be able to go home at the end of the day. Piper then goes on to explain that when she wakes up in the mornings, she often doesn't remember that she's in prison. And when she does remember that she's in prison, all of a sudden she feels like she can't breathe. That sounds like a panic attack to me, which I think is pretty understandable for the situation. I can see how waking up in prison might cause one to have a panic attack. Piper goes on to say it makes her want to cry and throw shit and kill herself, which, whoa. Yeah, I mean, that's a bit drastic. I wish for all people to realize that temporary moments are not a reason to do something like that. I think this totally shows where she's at right now in her despair and sadness and just overwhelm in this moment in the prison. I wish for everyone to realize that a bad day doesn't mean a bad life, and a bad moment or a bad period of time does not mean a bad life. There's always tomorrow. There's always another day. There's always another way to make life better, even if it's not so great in this moment. Piper's like, so when am I going to stop feeling like this? Like, when am I going to stop feeling like everything is horrible and I need to leave this place one way or another? Nicky says, I'll let you know. So that tells you that Nicky probably often feels this way as well, which, it makes me sad for her. It makes me sad for Piper. I wish these ladies had some support. I feel like the counselors should be doing a better job of managing the women's mental health. The fact that they're left to deal with it on their own is extremely dangerous, and it makes me really sad. In the next scene, we see Miss Claudette. She's sitting with Mr. Healy, and she's like, is there a problem? It looks like he's looking over some sort of paperwork. He's telling her that he actually has good news. It seems like her caseworker called, and they have an interest in reopening her case. Miss Claudette looks absolutely shocked, like, oh, looks like a little bit of hope in her eyes. Mr. Healy tells Miss Claudette that she's being reviewed for a potential early release due to some new law changes. So that's fantastic news. Miss Claudette doesn't seem interested, though. She says that she doesn't care to dredge up the past. Looks like she doesn't really want to get back into the details of her case. She doesn't want to think about that stuff anymore. She doesn't want to go back there. So that tells me that there's definitely some trauma there. Miss Claudette doubles down and says, I appreciate the opportunity, but no thank you. Not interested. She feels like it'll be a whole lot of aggravation for nothing. She has no faith in the fact that if they reopen the case that she'll even get out. So what's the point? Why even try? That's how she feels. Why even try? In the next backstory scene, we see Miss Claudette, except now she's no longer a young girl. It looks like she's now running the place where the young girls go. She's the one explaining to a young girl now, the way it works is that she works to pay off her debt. So Miss Claudette went from being one of the young girls working there to now being the woman in charge, which I guess good for you, promotion. But I'm also still a little bit concerned with why these girls are here anyways. People working as indentured servants to pay off debt in the 2000s is crazy to me. So this is where we find out that the business Miss Claudette is running is a cleaning business. Miss Claudette is telling the young girl that she needs to keep her uniform clean. She tells her that you can't be trusted to clean a house if you can't keep yourself clean, which I can see that. You got to be presentable, especially when your job is to clean. You should at the very least be clean yourself. Miss Claudette seems to be the boss / den mother to these girls, and she seems to be a very strict one. She's telling her that when you go to the homes of the clients, you are to be clean, you're to be respectful, polite, no foolishness, no laziness. She's just laying down the law, similar to how she lays down the law in prison with Piper and all of her roommates, really. She reminds the young girl that she needs to be saying, yes, ma'am, yes, sir. So very old school. After Miss Claudette sees the young girl off to go get settled, she turns around and who's behind her? But Baptiste. They're both older people now, and they look happy to see each other. So even though Baptiste got paid for bringing her to this place, it doesn't look like she holds any hard feelings. So I guess it's fine. They look so happy to see each other. She gives him a great big hug, and he gives her a gift of some mangoes, which she's very delighted about. She tells him thank you. They're her favorites. But that's when Baptiste tells Miss Claudette that he got married, and she looks absolutely heartbroken. I guess she has had feelings for him all this time, but it doesn't seem like they ever got together. It looks like she had hope one day, but now she looks completely heartbroken. She still manages to eke out a congratulations to him with a smile. She's trying to be a supportive friend here. That's when Baptiste says, she's actually here. Do you want to meet her? Way to put Miss Claudette on the spot. No, she doesn't want to meet her, but now that you've basically forced her here, I guess I have to meet her. Her name is Josephine, and she's young and beautiful. Miss Claudette jumps right into hostess mode. She's like, wonderful to meet you. Can I get you something to drink? But Baptiste stops her and says, listen, I'll get the juice. Don't worry about it. Why don't you sit down and you guys talk for a little bit? Ugh, this lady is rude. So when Baptiste walks away, Josephine says to Miss Claudette, you know, you and my husband must be really close. He talks about you all the time. And Miss Claudette says, well, yeah, we've been friends for a really long time. Josephine says to Miss Claudette, I don't know how you do it. And Miss Claudette's like, do what? Josephine goes on to say, I don't know how you've taken in these children when you couldn't have children of your own. Which, lady, I just met you. Let's not talk about who couldn't have children or why. You don't know my story. You don't know my life. I think that's extremely rude of her to even bring up, but that's what she says to Miss Claudette. But she says it in a way where, from the outside looking in, it looks like she's being sympathetic, but she's really being nasty and questioning her womanhood here, asking her about her inability to have children. From the outside, it looks like she's just in awe of her, like, oh my goodness, I don't know how you do it. In actuality, she's taking a dig at Miss Claudette here about her inability to have children. And honestly, this is what I call nice nasty. It looks nice from the outside, but she's being really nasty, really mean. And Miss Claudette, in her eyes, she looks hurt. But Miss Claudette holds her head high and she says, I've made my peace with it. She's a very strong woman. Back in the prison, we're back in the workshop. Piper tries to plug her lamp in and she gets shocked, which means she broke rule number 1 of electrical work. She got herself electrocuted. Nicky just laughs at her and says, hey, it's okay. It's called shock therapy. You might lose your short-term memory, but it's a sweet escape. My goodness. That's when Luschek says, all right, ladies, that's it. Work's done. Luschek tells them to clean up and return their tools. That's when Janae starts shaking the doors of the cage that she's in. Like, okay, if it's time to go home, then can I get out? And he goes, you get out when all the tools are back. And then he goes on to do some nonsense and scratch his head like a monkey. And that's extremely racist. Janae feels like it is too, because she says to him, yeah, keep that up. I'm going to throw some shit at you, cracker, which cracker is a slur. But as he's here making fun of her in a very racist way, I guess she figures fight fire with fire. 2 wrongs don't make a right, but I'm thinking that was probably her thinking. That's when an alarm goes off in the prison. So Nicky explains to Piper that when the alarm sounds, you have to lay face down on the ground until the alarm goes off. And so Piper's like, but why? And Janae says, because the white man said so. To which Nicky says, yeah, she's right. Which, yeah, I mean, it's true. Some white man made that rule, and so that's what they're doing. It turns out the alarm was sounded for nothing because some rookie thought it was a light switch. So actually, there is no emergency. The girls can get back up. It's no big deal. That's when we see Bennett. He's walking around outside and he's limping. We see him walk up to this little cubby in the yard where he finds some tobacco. I guess that's where he stashed it. That's when he sees Daya laying on the ground because she doesn't know it's time to get back up. She's new. He's saying to her, you can get up. False alarm. Everything's fine. And Daya's like, the alarm scared me, which, I mean, I think it would scare anybody. That thing sounds crazy. And then to have to get on the ground and everything, it's probably a really scary situation, especially not knowing what's going on. That's when we find out that the reason Bennett is chewing tobacco is because his friend told him that will help him to quit smoking. That's when Daya shares that menthols were her thing. So I guess she was a smoker also. She says she's still jonesing for some Newports, which that reminds me of my mom. She used to smoke Newports also in the 90s. Daya is always crossing lines with Bennett. She asks him if she can try some of the tobacco. He's looking kind of scared and not sure if he should do that. He probably knows he shouldn't do that, but he looks like he kind of wants to. Daya says, you can trust me. I'm not going to tell anybody. And so Bennett says, all right, fine. Daya is asking Bennett how to use it. And he starts to tell her, you know, you put it between your lip and your front teeth. And she just looks confused. So he opens up her lip and he puts it in there for her, which is very personal, not invading her space because she seems completely open to it, but he's all up in her space in a very inappropriate way. If any other guard were to see this, I'm sure he would get in trouble for this. Daya has the tobacco in her mouth for like 2 seconds and she's like, this is disgusting, please. I need to spit this out. The score of the show is playing this nice light piano music here as if this is a very romantic little moment. They want us to think that this is cute, but honestly, it's really inappropriate. But they want us to think it's cute. So it's cute. Bennett tells Daya that the tobacco is stuck in all of her teeth. So Daya takes out her earring And she asked Bennett to use the end of the earring to clean out her teeth for her, like as if it's a toothpick, which again, he's holding her lip and all up in her mouth with the back of the earring. And it's very inappropriate. He should not be in her space this way, but he is. That scene cuts and we're back in the workshop where Luschek is pissed because a screwdriver is missing. Now, do we remember where the screwdriver is? I think I do. Luschek is screaming at Janae, someone's got to have it. And Janae's like, listen, I don't know. I took the chits. I gave the tools. I don't know what to tell you. I don't know where the screwdriver is. Luschek grabs a clipboard with some lines on it. And he's like, well, where's the list of names? And Janae's saying to him, what do you mean? Luschek yells at her, I told you for every chit that comes in, there has to be a name written down. And Janae's like, you did not tell me that. You told me to take the chit, get the tool back, give back the chit. Like, what are you talking about a list now? You never told me that. And he didn't. He did not. She's like, I fucking did that. Luschek is just losing his mind here. He's like, fine. Who the hell has it? Now all the girls are looking over like, why is he screaming like that? What's going to happen to her? They look very concerned. So Luschek is forced to hit the alarm because one of these inmates has a tool which can be used as a weapon. And that's exactly what Caputo comes in and says in the next scene. He's like, listen, ladies, a screwdriver is considered a deadly weapon. And having a deadly weapon will add another 5 years on your sentence. We have quite a bit of guards in this room. We have not only Luschek and Caputo, but we also have Pornstash and Bennett and Donaldson. They're all basically interrogating the women to figure out who has this screwdriver. Janae is not one to hold her tongue. So she talks back to Caputo and she's like, I don't like being yelled at for something that I didn't do, which I feel you, but I don't think now is the time to speak up like that. That makes Pornstash stand up in a way that says, do I need to assert myself over you right now? Or are you going to chill? Caputo clarifies, I'm not threatening you. I'm informing you of the fact. Janae says, it sounds like a threat to me. I already told you I don't have it. To which Luschek acts like a little kid in school, points to her. He's like, I put her in charge of the tools. This is her fault. You know, like, don't look at me. Look at her. It's not me. She did it. That one over there. Janae does not hold her tongue for anyone. She says, yo, don't be trying to pass the buck on me. It's your fucking job. And she's not wrong. But again, Janae, please shut your mouth, please. But she's not wrong. It is his job. At the end of the day, it's his job. She goes on to say, I'm just a monkey in a cage, remember? And Piper tries to step in and help her there. She's like, no, I don't think that she means that in that way. And Janae's like, listen, I don't need you translating for me, honey boo boo. Janae has a big chip on her shoulder, and for reasons, which we'll find out, but she's definitely got a big chip on her shoulder and it's spilling out all over the place here. Caputo says that he wants all of the women in the workshop to be searched for the screwdriver. And Janae says, I don't know about anybody else in this room, but I don't want any man guard patting me down and copping a feel, which, valid. I think if they're going to be searched, they should be able to request a female guard. And Caputo says as much when he says, of course, as is your right. But then he goes on to say, Donaldson, take her down to SHU and let her wait there until we can find a female officer to conduct a thorough search. Unfortunately, while it is her right to be searched by a female guard, these guards are not making it easy for women to have that distinction. So it looks like if somebody were to complain about a male guard searching them, they will just be thrown in solitary for who knows how long until a female officer can conduct a thorough search. So it's just another excuse to throw them in solitary. Caputo did not have to do that. They should have had a female officer in this room. They should have called a female officer if they didn't have one in the room. The fact that she's being sent to solitary over this is absolutely ridiculous. And I really feel for her here. Caputo looks like he absolutely gives no fucks. He does not care that Janae is being sent to solitary. He waves goodbye to her almost tauntingly. And while he does grow and change, this is not a good side of Caputo that we're seeing here. Janae is pretty much resisting being taken down to SHU, and on her way out the door, she yells out regarding Luschek, this motherfucker is a drunk. Smell his breath. He's a drunk. And is she wrong? No. Is she going to be taken seriously? We'll see. Caputo does nothing, doesn't acknowledge it at all. He moves on and says, does anyone else have a problem with a male officer? And Piper is just standing there absolutely stunned. Like, oh my God. First of all, this is all over a screwdriver. Second of all, you guys wouldn't even let her get searched by a female and now she has to go to solitary. And now You're asking us as if we have a choice when we really don't. So no, we don't have a problem with a male officer. And actually, I'm kind of a little afraid. This does not feel like a safe situation. Caputo goes on to say, if you cooperate, it tells me that you have nothing to hide. As the ladies are being searched, Caputo tells them that if you know who took the weapon and you don't speak up, you will be considered an accomplice and charged accordingly. Pornstash is the one who does Piper's search. As Caputo turns around, Pornstash is 100% groping her, feeling on her boobs, rubbing her down in a way that he really should not. Definitely an assault. Definitely was not seen by Caputo. But Piper was just assaulted. And she just has to stand there and take it. It's really sad, really scary. And Piper says as much to Nicky once they're done searching. She's like, Jesus, that was scary. Did he touch your tit? And Nicky's saying, well, he cupped my ass. So, you know, feeling these women up and assaulting them is just a commonplace practice around here, and that should not be. That's when Caputo walks over to Luschek and tells him, hey, someone's going down for this. It feels like it's in a threatening way where he's saying, you better figure it out, because if you don't figure it out, you will be the one going down for it. And as he should be the one going down for it because he did not even give proper instruction. Do your job, Luschek. Do your job. When Piper's leaving the workshop, she realizes that she left her sweatshirt outside by the benches. Nicky comes over to Piper and she's like, hey, so do you think your friend Janae took it? Piper says, I wouldn't say she's my friend. I say hi. She says, shut the fuck up. That's about the extent of our relationship. She's like, I say, hey, how's it going? She sucks her teeth, maybe calls me bitch, or you Taylor Swift ass motherfucker. So it seems like Piper understands that Janae does not really mess with her. To which Nicky says, well, that's just fucking racist. You look nothing like Taylor Swift. Which, no, she looks nothing like Taylor Swift. So yeah, that is a bit racial there. Nicky says we do not all look alike despite what they think, which is kind of funny. No one group all looks alike, clearly. That's when Piper asks Nicky, is she really that bad? Nicky describes it as just like the Hamptons, only fucking horrible. Piper's like, okay, yeah, I guess that was a dumb question. That's when Trisha comes over to Piper and she's like, hey, Brain, I want to ask you something. So Piper's got another little nickname. She's being called Brain, I guess, because the girls think that she's smart and educated. It turns out that Trisha wants Piper to look over her letter of appeal. You know, make sure that it sounds good, makes sense, that sort of thing. Trisha's saying that she just wants to get out since her girlfriend's getting out and she wants to be with her. So now Trisha's trying to go for her appeal. Piper tells Trisha, sure, she'll take a look at it. And as she folds the letter up and puts it in her pocket, she realizes that the screwdriver that's missing is in her pocket. We saw her walk out with it when she went to lunch with Nicky. So it's still there in her pocket. So all this hubbub about the missing screwdriver is actually Piper's fault. Just as Piper's realizing that the screwdriver is in her pocket, Alex walks up behind her. And she's like, it's happy hour. Who's up for margaritas? As if it's on the outside and work is over and they're going to happy hour. It's a nice thing to pretend. But no, that's not what's happening here. Piper looks absolutely terrified that the screwdriver is in her pocket. She looks like she's a deer in headlights, just stuck, not knowing what to do. So Piper walks away from that conversation, telling no one that she has the screwdriver. She just goes back to her bunk. When she gets there, Piper sits down and she just looks so stunned. She's completely freaked out about what to do about the screwdriver situation. And that's when Pusey comes through saying, yo, dump your shit. They're doing a sweep, meaning the guards are about to come through and search everybody's bunks and everything. So if Piper's found with the screwdriver on her, she's about to be in big trouble. That's when she pulls the screwdriver out of her pocket and she's like, I don't know what to do. Miss Claudette's like, what did you do? Why do you have that? Piper's like, I don't know. I literally don't know. Miss Claudette does her a solid though. She takes the screwdriver, puts it in her little pot as they go outside to be searched. Hopefully the guards don't look at Miss Claudette's pot and find it in there. So that's when Pornstash appears and he says, this is a mandatory random bunk inspection. But is it random or did he just follow Piper back to her bunk? Looks like it's option number 2. But he said it's random and so he's going to go ahead and search their area. As he does it, he's singing that little classical song that goes dun 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 dun. He keeps escalating and getting louder as he trashes their entire bunk area, which you know Miss Claudette is pissed about. Ugh. Oh my God. Pornstash really shows us, the audience here, what an asshole he is. He's kicking Piper's books, throwing stuff off of the desk. For what? What is the reason to be so mean and disrespectful to people's things? There's no need for this. They don't have hardly anything, and the things that they do have, you want to treat like this? It's so mean. Once he gets over to Miss Claudette's pot, he looks like he takes an active interest in it. He's smelling it, he's looking at it very closely. But Pornstash doesn't look at Miss Claudette's pot well enough because he doesn't realize that the screwdriver is in there. Thank goodness. The only person that Piper is explaining what actually happened is Miss Claudette. She's telling her, I don't know what happened. Piper says, my sweatshirt was outside. I don't remember putting the screwdriver in my pocket. And she's like, oh my God, am I losing my memory? And, maybe she is. Being in prison is trauma, so it is quite possible that she is losing her memory. Yet she's going to be held responsible should they find the screwdriver on her. Piper's like, listen, I'll just tell them the truth. I'll just give it back. Miss Claudette says, you cannot do that. And Piper's like, well, why not? Miss Claudette says, because here they don't believe the truth. Miss Claudette tells Piper that they'll throw you in shoe and me too as an accomplice. So Piper says, well, what should I do? Should I just leave it in the yard somewhere? And Miss Claudette says no, because what if some crazy person takes it and stabs somebody? Then you're going to be held responsible as an accomplice to murder. You don't want that. Miss Claudette tells Piper, if you ever want to go back home, you better get that screwdriver back on the wall. Piper really got herself in some mess on her first week here in prison. In the next scene, we see the ladies decorating the common area for a goodbye party for Mercy since she's getting out. The ladies are using toilet paper to decorate the common area, and Trisha seems to be overseeing it, being the girlfriend of Mercy. She's trying to make sure that everything looks really nice for her. She's asking Alex to make sure that she gets the toilet paper all the way to the other side of this gate. And Alex is like, oh, is that going to really make it more festive? All we need now is a piñata full of rats. Like, this is just trash no matter what you do, but okay. And Trisha says, you know what, Stretch? Your ass just got uninvited. Thanks for the help. To which Alex says, shit, I just got uninvited to the most depressing party ever. That's when Trisha sort of throws it in Boo's face that Chapman's helping her with her appeal. So she's expecting that she's going to be getting out pretty soon too, so that she can go be with her girlfriend Mercy. Throwing in Boo's face that she's going to go be out there with her in the real world while Boo is stuck in here. And Boo is like, please, Mercy's going to dump you as soon as she gets out of here. She's going to be looking for the next pretty young thing, and you are not going to be anything compared to what's out there. So good luck with that. Trisha comes back with the fact that, well, Boo, you're just mad because Mercy doesn't love you anymore. She loves me, and she wants to be with me. And Boo's like, girl, Mercy loved me too for 2 whole years, and then you came along. And you think she's not going to drop you like she dropped me? Please. She's going to do the exact same thing to you. Boo goes on to say that girl was raised by animals. She doesn't know how to love. To which Trisha says, well, you're fat. And Boo turns around slowly and she's like, oh, you got me. Like, thank you, Captain Obvious. Who cares? That's all you got? I can live with that. Then we see Piper outside. She's walking to the workshop, probably to go try to put the screwdriver back. But as she's walking, she sees guards searching inmates left and right. Everywhere she looks, a guard is searching an inmate. And she looks absolutely terrified. That's when Suzanne comes over and she's like, hey, Dandelion, I've been missing you. Suzanne tells her, don't be mad at me, Dandelion. I'm sorry. Suzanne says, just don't make me angry, all right? You don't want to see me when I'm angry. Suzanne's always throwing out lines from shows and movies, which is really funny to me because I also see the world in terms of shows and movies. So I think that's pretty funny that she's always throwing out these lines from different shows and movies. This one is a line that the Incredible Hulk says all the time. Piper starts to get really nervous and she turns around probably to try to avoid the guards ahead of her that are going to search her. And she runs right into Mr. Healy. She's like, oh, Mr. Healy, can I talk to you for a second? And he starts in on, listen, I don't want to hear about the job. I put you in electric because there's mold in the GED room. I don't want to hear it. This is what you're doing. But Piper really doesn't care about anything that he's saying. All Piper cares about is the fact that she's talking to him, and so the guards won't come and search her. Piper is stalling, okay? She says to Mr. Healy, actually, that's all fine. I just wanted to thank you. She tells him pretty soon she's going to be able to rewire a lamp, and she's really excited about that. Like, she's learning new things. Isn't that great? I'm so excited. Thank you for this opportunity. Mr. Healy notices that Piper is kind of nervous, and so he goes, are you okay, Chapman? I hope you're staying out of trouble. To which she says, of course, as the guard passes her by, not searching her because she's talking to Mr. Healy. So she was able to get out of being searched. Good job, Piper. So Piper says, thanks for everything. I gotta go. And she goes back inside to avoid being searched. When we see Piper again, she's back by her bed and she's looking for some place to hide the screwdriver. She decides to put it under her mattress, which I think is a horrible place to put it because they constantly toss the mattresses. But that's where Piper decides to put it. She gets it under there just in the nick of time before Boo, Pusey, Gina, and Gloria come storming into her dorm area. Boo starts out, I heard you were helping Trisha with a letter. Piper's like, I don't know what you heard, but I just said that I would look at it for her. I'm not really doing much. I'm just looking it over. I don't want any trouble. That's when Boo's like, I just want you to help me with mine. And the other girls are like, yeah, same. Pusey, Gina, and Gloria also want Piper to help with their appeals. Piper is like, well, I'm not a lawyer. You guys know that, right? I can write, I guess, but I'm not a lawyer. I'm no expert here. Please don't think I can help you in this great way. All I can do is look it over. Piper notices that Boo is going through her stuff, looking at things on her cabinet, just picking through her things. But Piper doesn't seem too bothered by it. Doesn't look like she's taking anything, so fine. Piper says, okay, I can look over things for you guys. That's no problem. Let's set up some times to talk and we'll check it out. And Boo's like, well, why not now? No day like today. And Boo sits down on Piper's bed right where Piper put the screwdriver. And those mattresses are not very thick. So I'm pretty sure if Boo sat there, that she can sort of figure out what's underneath her. She doesn't really draw attention to it, but I'm pretty sure she knows that screwdriver is there. Piper knows that Boo sat down on the screwdriver. So she's like, listen, guys, now is not a good time. To which Gloria says, oh, wow, Blanca, like, wow, I can't believe you're doing this. You don't have time for us? And Piper's like, no. I have no problem helping you guys. Just leave the papers with me. I'll look them over and then we can talk about it after. And Gloria's like, yeah, whatever. How about this? I'm innocent. I was set up. How about that? And Pusey says, shit, well, I wasn't even in Jersey when that shit went down. And Gina says, I may be a thief, but I'm not an embezzler. And that guy shot himself. Like, girl, what? Is she here for murder? But she says that the guy shot himself, so I guess she didn't really do it. But man, I don't think I realized that Gina was in here for possibly murder, or at least assault with a deadly weapon. They all have their reasons, and they all are like, listen, I know that I went down for some things, but I didn't do all that they said that I did. It wasn't me. That's when Miss Claudette comes in and lays down the law. Miss Claudette's like, this is my room, not a sorority. Y'all need to go. And Piper's talking to Miss Claudette as if they are roommates living on the Upper East Side or something. She's like, listen, I'm sorry. I know how you feel about guests. I asked them to leave, but they're looking for legal help. Piper doesn't know how to deal with the situation. And she's trying. She really is, but she doesn't have any pull here. Miss Claudette's like, if you want to open a law office, you can do it someplace else, not in my room. Okay, y'all need to go. Since Miss Claudette has laid down the law, the ladies are going to leave. First, they're going to give Piper their paperwork. When Gloria gives in hers, she says to Piper, fruit stamp fraud? I mean, really, I was only feeding starving children. I mean, kind of. I don't know. I think you're kind of stretching there, but I'll go with you. Miss Claudette asks Piper, did you take care of that problem of yours? To which Piper lies to her face and she's like, yeah. It's all good. It's all good. Taken care of. That is not true. And Piper needs to figure it out soon. So now we're seeing Taystee at her job. She works in the library. And it looks like someone is trying to take out a Harry Potter book. And so Taystee says to her, wait, shorty, do you want a book to read or a step stool? Because I'm telling you right now, you ain't stepping on the goblet of fire. Taystee says, don't be fucking with Harry Potter. Okay, respect. Taystee goes on to say, well, you can step on Ulysses. And then she whispers, like it's a secret. Everyone says it's so genius, but I call it bullshit. Taystee says, no one wants to go through all that rambling. Ain't nobody got time for that. That's where we see Nicky and Alex meet up in the library. Alex said she had to leave her bunk area because her roommate was hosting Bible study. She's like, I can normally tune them out, but once they started talking about who's going to get raptured first, I had to go. I'm not sure if I know who her bunkie is, but if they're talking religion, I'd venture to say maybe it's Pennsatucky at this point. I'm not sure, but I guess we'll find out. To which Nicky says, well, I'm definitely getting raptured first. I've actually been dead at least 3 times. I've met God and he fucking loves me. I love that. I love Nicky. I do. She's one of my faves. So Nicky asks Alex, what was her major in college? And Alex is like, well, I actually didn't go to college. I just kind of hung out on campus and went to parties. She goes on to say, no moolah, no schoolah. So she unfortunately was not able to go to college because she didn't have the money to go. Alex said that she did sometimes sit in on classes. She figures if she went to film classes, they were basically free movies, which true. That's when Nicky asks Alex, is that where you met Chapman? To which Alex says, kind of. Nicky's like, I've been in here for 3 years and I've seen all kinds of dramas with lesbians before, but I've never seen what y'all got going on. What went on with you guys out there? And Alex is like, lots of stuff. But she's not trying to give up any details. So Nicky says, fine, I'll just let my imagination keep running wild then. That's when Alex goes back and she's like, wait, 3 years? How much time do you have left? And Nicky says, 2 more. So Nicky's got a total of 5 years. Alex asks her, 5 years? Fuck, for what? And Nicky says, drugs, basically. Which, yeah, basically, for drugs and the things people do for drugs, that is why Nicky is in prison. Nicky goes on to ask Alex, well, how many years do you have? Alex says, counting good time, subtract the 3, add the 1. Basically a fuckload of time. That's what I've got. So I wonder if we'll ever get an idea of how much time Alex has. I don't know off the top of my head how much time she has, but we don't get an answer here. Nicky leans over to Alex and she says, yo, should we plan an escape? Nicky asks Alex, where would she want to go? And Alex is like, I don't even know anymore. I used to. That's when Alex starts to get a little bit emotional. And Nicky goes, oh man, I was just starting to like you, Voss. Are you starting to go soft on me? Alex is like, no. She puts her glasses back on and she's starting to cry. Nicky's like, oh, fuck, come here. So she has Alex lean into her and she's basically trying to comfort her in that moment. She tells her, it'll be okay, sister. Back in Piper's bunk, she's going over Trisha's appeal and she's saying that it's a complete mess. She kind of wants to say no, but it seems like Trisha really needs help. Piper asks Miss Claudette if she's ever written an appeal because Piper's not really sure where to start. Miss Claudette says maybe you should stay out of other people's affairs. And Piper's like, yeah, I guess maybe, but maybe I can actually help her case. Piper says to Miss Claudette, there's always a chance, right? Miss Claudette responds with, hope is a dangerous thing. It sounds like she knows that all too well, and we'll see why. In the next scene, we see Caputo addressing a group of guards, and he's yelling at them, basically telling them, you come in here and you tell me that you've come up empty. Nobody found the screwdriver. Seriously? He tells them that it's unacceptable. That's when Pornstash interrupts and he's like, sir, shouldn't this be on loose check? To which Caputo says, it's loose check's fault. It's missing. It's your fault that it hasn't been found. I mean, I guess. That's interesting coming from Caputo. He says, if you go easy on these girls, what happens? They take advantage. These women are fucking criminals. Have you forgotten that? It's very interesting coming from Caputo because eventually he gets out of this mindset and he starts to see the women as women and not criminals. He starts to see them as people again. And do they take advantage at that point? I don't know. I guess we'll have to take a deep look at that when we get there. Caputo goes on to say, and don't get me started on loose check. Do you know how many times I try to fire his ass? Fucking unions were not created to protect the drunk and retarded. Again, his words, not mine. Caputo tries to scare them. He's like, listen, it's not very funny. The screwdriver is a serious thing. It's a weapon. It can be used to puncture your lung. It can kill you. As a CO, it's happened before and it could happen again. He's like, find the fucking screwdriver. So the guards are back at it, searching the women's bunks again. This time, when Pornstash is searching Piper's bunk, Piper is looking terrified because remember, she put the screwdriver under her mattress. And so as she and Miss Claudette are standing outside of the bunk, Piper tells her, the screwdriver is still in there. Miss Claudette's like, what? You lied to me? Piper says, I was going to return it this morning. I didn't know there was going to be a sneak attack. So Miss Claudette's like, all right, fine. Where is it? And Piper tells her it's under the mattress. And that's where Pornstash is looking right now. But he says it's clean. No screwdriver in there. So at this point, Piper's like, what? I know I left it in there and you didn't find it. So where the heck is it? Piper's searching her bed and she's like, it's gone. I have no idea where it went. She thinks she's losing her mind. She literally thinks she's going crazy at this point. She's like, I don't know if I'm going crazy or what, but whatever, either way, problem solved. And Miss Claudette's like, my problem is solved because the screwdriver is no longer in our bunk, but your problem is just getting started. You lied to me, so that's strike 2. Piper cuts her off and she's like, listen, can you please just cut me a little bit of slack here? Miss Claudette's like, slack? Piper's like, yeah, I said it, slack. Everybody's looking like, oh, I wouldn't do that if I were you. Piper goes on and she's like, I have been here for less than 2 weeks. She says, I've been starved out. I've been felt up, teased, stalked, threatened, and called Taylor Swift. And now I have to deal with you. She's like, I'm doing my best, okay? I'm trying my best. She's like, the screwdriver's not here anymore. We shouldn't have any beef anymore. Like, leave me alone, lady. She's like, I might have some short-term memory loss going on, and I'm not quite sure why. Probably because you're dealing with trauma right now, Piper. But she's like, can you please just cut me some slack? And Miss Claudette kind of smiles there. And I smile with her because good for you, Piper. Stand up for yourself. Don't let that lady run you around like that. I mean, I get it. Miss Claudette has some status here and she does have seniority here. But also, that doesn't mean she gets to walk all over you. Assert yourself, defend yourself, stand up for yourself. And Piper did just that. Good for you, Piper. Good for you. Miss Claudette looks like she's impressed. So we're back in the past with another backstory scene from Miss Claudette. She's talking to the same young girl that we saw before. She's telling her that everyone must take a shower. She's basically yelling at the girl, telling her that she needs to go and bathe now. But the girl is refusing. Miss Claudette is like, what's going on? Speak up for yourself. Similarly to how Piper spoke up for herself. But the girl just puts her head down like she's either afraid or unwilling to talk. So Miss Claudette excuses the other girls and she goes to have a one-on-one conversation with this girl. She asks her, what happened to you? And the girl starts to cry. Miss Claudette's like, you can tell me. So the young girl, she starts to unbutton her shirt and she shows Miss Claudette that she's been scarred on her chest, on her side. It looks like somebody's been beating her up. And Miss Claudette is just shocked. I'm sure she's wondering what happened to this girl and how can she help? She's here to get these girls work, not get them abused. They leave us with that and we're back at the prison and we see who has the screwdriver. Boo took the screwdriver. I guess when she was in Piper's room, she felt it for sure when she sat down. Maybe she came back for it, but she has it in her possession now. And that little revelation cuts to Taystee at Mercy's party. It looks like she's reciting a poem. Taystee says, the world ain't all sunshine and rainbows. It's a very mean place. So you wind up in prison and everybody's up in your face. I don't care how tough you are. The world will beat you to your knees. You lay down with dogs, you wake up with fleas. Nobody's gonna hit you harder than life. Not a guard, not a gangster, not even your wife. Mercy, you're getting out, so there's no need to sit around and pout. We're gonna open up a booth so you can sit and mourn for your lost youth. I hope you enjoyed my original piece. It was a tasty delight. Thank you, and I bid you all a good night. So a little poetry there from our girl Taystee with some truths told in a way that only Taystee can. Pusey calls her out though. Pusey is like, girl, that is not all yours. You stole half of that from Rocky 6. So I guess Taystee also is one that walks around here quoting TV and movies. Taystee's like, well, maybe, but at least I made it rhyme. Word, Taystee. Take your credit, girl. Even Pusey had to say true. So then the ladies get some music going and it's a party. We see Alex here in the room and Trisha goes up to her and she's like, I don't know if you don't understand words or what, but uninvited means not invited. And Alex responds with, I'm just here using the microwave. And then she says under her breath, I don't even want to be here at this stupid party anyways. Gloria overhears that and she's like, yeah, so you just magically decided to heat up your noodles right now, right? Like, girl, please, you wanted to be here. You're not fooling anybody. Gloria tells Alex, high school is high school. Like, come on, grow up. You can do better than that. And then she says out loud so that everybody else can hear her, and don't be talking to me, white girl, like in a way that says, I don't want people to think that I'm cool with you, but also I'm cool with you. We see Trisha, she's looking pretty sad standing next to Mercy and she's telling her that I'm gonna miss you, when she leaves. Trisha asks Mercy to promise to wait for her. Mercy's like, of course I promise. Don't let Boo get in your head. I'm your girl. That's when Red walks past them kissing and says to Boo, who's like brooding, girl, there's other girls in here. Like, stop getting hung up on this one girl. Let it go. That's when Taystee goes over to Mercy, grabs her to come dance, and she's like, come on, white girl, let's go dance. It looks like Trisha's a little bit jealous when she sees Mercy dancing with Taystee. It's not even like they're being super flirtatious, but Trisha just doesn't want to see Mercy dancing with anybody that's not her, I guess. I guess it's easy to get jealous in that position. So Piper's walking away from the party and Nicky's like, you're not partying? You got something against parties? And Piper's like, no. Nicky asked Piper if she's all right because she just seems kind of out of it. Piper tells her, I think I might have gotten Miss Claudette really mad at me. That's when Nicky says to her, look, you know how some people have imaginary friends? I think you might have imaginary enemies. And that's where we get the title of this week's episode, Imaginary Enemies. Piper's like, what did she say to you? Nicky says, Miss Claudette? And Piper's like, no, Alex. Nicky says, wouldn't you like to know? Piper's like, yeah, yes, absolutely. I would like to know. That's why I'm asking. Yes. Nicky's like, nothing. Whatever your secrets are, she's keeping them. Don't worry. Alex didn't tell me anything. Piper then says, do you think she'll try to hurt me in my sleep? And Nicky says, who, Alex? Now Piper switches back and she's like, no, Miss Claudette. Girl, pick a topic. Are we talking about Alex or are we talking about Miss Claudette? Nicky says, Miss Claudette was into some kind of slave trade shit. See, that's what I said. It seemed like some weird indentured servant, something weird going on there. Nicky tells Piper that all that murder talk is rumor, and if you ask me, it's bullshit. She doesn't think that Miss Claudette murdered anybody. Nicky tells Piper, so unless you're worried that she's going to harbor you illegally, I wouldn't sweat it. Later that evening, when Miss Claudette is returning to her bunk, Bennett comes up behind her and he says, you didn't come in for mail call. Miss Claudette's like, I never get any mail, so. Bennett tells her, well, you did today, and hands her a letter. From who? But Baptiste. It's on the letter that we realize that Baptiste is writing from Haiti, so I'm assuming that's also where Miss Claudette is originally from, and probably where most of those girls who were working for her are originally from. Miss Claudette looks absolutely shocked to even be receiving this letter. I wonder how long it's been since she's gotten a letter, since she doesn't even go to mail call anymore. And I wonder why Baptiste is writing her all of a sudden now. The next scene is another backstory scene from Miss Claudette. We're seeing her show up to a client's house, Mr. Jones. She says, hello, Mr. Jones. I'm from Cleanmakers. The regular girl couldn't make it, so I'm here. So the old guy just lets her in. Looks like he's disappointed not to see the young girl, but he's letting her in anyways. Come on in, do your job, thanks. We see Miss Claudette cleaning a knife. She's wearing yellow gloves, cleaning the knife, listening to classical music. It's all very peaceful. The kitchen looks beautiful, pristine. She looks very satisfied with her work. As she picks up the trash in her bucket of cleaning materials, we see her step over something on the floor. The camera pans down and we see that she has murdered this man in his home. He's sitting there in a pool of blood. Looks like he's been stabbed to death, probably with the knife that she was just cleaning. And she just steps right on over him and walks out. Like, all right, that's done and I'm leaving. I'm assuming that what happened was the girl was being beat by this man. So it looks like in defense of the girl, Miss Claudette has murdered this man. Was that the right thing to do? Absolutely not. I mean, she could have just canceled him as a client. That would have worked also. But instead, Miss Claudette chose to kill him. So that's what happened. And I assume that's the reason why she's in prison. That's also probably the reason why Miss Claudette told Piper earlier that she should just try to stay out of other people's business. Because had Miss Claudette stayed out of that young girl's business, maybe she wouldn't be sitting in prison right now. When we get back to the prison, we see Trisha and it looks like she's planting drugs in Mercy's cabinet. Miss Claudette catches her and she's like, what are you doing? You can't steal that girl's date. I see you with the drugs in your hand. What are you doing? Miss Claudette kind of yokes her up and she's like, you cannot take that girl's shot at getting out. Trisha says, yes, I can. And she's like, no, you cannot. You will not steal Mercy's date because you have a little schoolgirl crush. Like, grow up. You cannot play with someone's life like that. And Trisha says, almost in desperation, but I love her. Miss Claudette says, love is not an excuse. And she finally lets Trisha go as she walks away. In the next scene, we see Lushek. He's in a prison van listening to some rock music and he reaches down for a Home Depot bag. And what's in there but a screwdriver? It looks like he wants to solve the problem by basically replacing the screwdriver with a new one. No harm, no foul. The screwdriver's back and maybe everybody will leave him alone, I assume is his plan. But we'll see how that goes. I'm not quite sure how he got in the prison with a screwdriver. Aren't the guards searched also before they come in? You would think somebody would have caught that. It is considered a weapon, even if a guard has it. He could be using it to possibly hurt one of the girls. So I'm not quite sure how nobody caught that before he brought it all the way into the prison, but here we are. When Piper goes into the workshop, she's using her chits to get a pair of pliers and a wire cutter. It looks like Flocka's working in the cage now since Janae's down in solitary. Piper notices that the screwdriver is back. She looks confused because she knows that's not what the screwdriver looked like exactly. So she looks over at Blueshek and she's like, is that the screwdriver? He tries to play it off. He's like, lucky for you guys, I found this thing under the sink, so I saved you. You're welcome. In the next scene, we see Boo pleasuring herself with the screwdriver. It looks like she's turned it into a bedroom toy. So That's why she took it. That's what she's using it for. And that's where it landed. I guess she gets to keep it since Loose Check replaced the screwdriver at the workshop. That transitions us over to Miss Claudette, who is opening up that letter from Baptiste. It says, "My dear Claudette, the past few months have seen my life turned upside down. All caps. Josephine has died." He goes on to say, "I don't know how I feel, only that years have gone by, too many years, and I find myself thinking back to when I last felt," and he just puts a dash. He then has all caps, "I'm coming back to America. We may not have spoken in years, but you have never been far from my mind. I will dash, all caps, I want to see you. Please let me know that you will allow me to visit. Yours." It looks like he almost wanted to write love, but he changed that L into a Y and he wrote yours, Baptiste. So his wife has died, and it looks like he's looking for plan B, which seems to be Miss Claudette. And she looks hopeful. She looks like she's happy about it. I think she's always had a crush on him, and she seems so hurt when she found out that he was getting married. So to find out that he's single now and is looking for her, I'm sure it makes her feel good. That's when Taystee comes to let Miss Claudette know that Mercy's leaving. Miss Claudette looks up from her letter with tears in her eyes. She doesn't say anything and just goes right back to the letter. The next time that we see her, she's knocking on Mr. Healy's door. She's like, "Do you have a second?" And he goes, "No, but you're here now." He's doing some paperwork, but he's willing to listen to her. Miss Claudette tells him, "I've changed my mind." And he looks over at her like, "Okay, about what?" She tells him, "I'd like to reopen my case." It looks like that letter from Baptiste has given her a renewed sense of hope and a new reason to even want to try again. She hasn't wanted to try for all these years, but with the chance of having something with Baptiste, she's trying to get out of here if she can. The next thing that we see is Piper about to walk into her dorm area. We hear over the loudspeaker somebody saying, "Abusive and obscene language is strictly prohibited under Code 404." Which is hilarious because everybody in this prison, prisoners as well as guards, all use obscene and abusive language. So interesting. I guess that means that any of them can get called out for it at any point because it is against the rules. When Piper gets back to her dorm, she notices that everything is cleaned up and she smiles. She's very happy about that. So I guess Miss Claudette's not as mad at her as she thought because she cleaned up their area for her, which was kind. Then we see Mercy. She's getting ready to leave. She's giving everybody their hugs goodbye. Boo says to her, "Sorry I've been such a dick, but I'm going to miss you, little girl." She tries to go in for a kiss, and Pornstash is like, "Absolutely not. There's no kissing here. Back up." Boo gives him the death stare, but she walks away. Next, Trisha steps up to say goodbye to Mercy, and she goes straight in for the kiss. So fast that Pornstash couldn't stop it. So he says, "All right, ladies, that's enough. Break it up. Break it up." Trisha tells her that she loves her, and Mercy promises that she'll wait for her. That must be really tough to say goodbye to your loved one when they're getting out and you have no idea if they're going to still be there for you or if this was just a prison thing. It must be really scary for Trisha. And that's it. Bye-bye, Mercy. The last thing that we see in the episode is Miss Claudette as she's looking at Mercy walk away. She's free. It looks like Miss Claudette almost has this renewed sense of hope, like that could be her one day, hopefully one day soon. And then we get our orange screen letting us know the episode is over. So that's the episode. IMDb rated this episode an 8. In comparison, IMDb rated the last episode a 7.9. And while I was higher than IMDb on the last episode, I rated it an 8.3. But this week's episode, they rated at an 8. I'm going to be going lower on this episode, unfortunately. I know there are some of us Orange fans out there who love Miss Claudette and her backstory and everything. I find it interesting, but it is not my favorite episode by any means. I think the episode is important because we get to see a little bit more of how the prison works. We get to see what happens when somebody leaves. We get to see Piper's job. We get to see Taystee's job in the library. We have that whole thing with the screwdriver, which is very interesting. But while people like Miss Claudette and they like Trisha and they like Mercy, knowing how the show goes and knowing that they don't play a very big role in the rest of the show, this episode has never been a favorite of mine. I usually skip this episode if I'm being honest. So that being said, I would have to rate this episode a 7.5. I don't want to go much lower than that. It does have some important parts, but it's not my favorite episode at all. But we know that my word is not the end all be all. I would love to hear your personal ratings for this week's episode, so please put them in the comments. Let me know what you think. Are you a fan of Miss Claudette and Trisha and Mercy? Is this one of your favorite episodes? I'd love to know. Next week, we will be watching season 1, episode 5, titled The Chickening. IMDb states the synopsis for that episode is, while on the lawn one morning, Piper sees a chicken roosting nearby on the grass. When she tells other inmates about the odd sighting, Piper discovers that the chicken is actually a prison legend that several inmates have tried to catch for years. Also, the complicated history between Aleida Diaz and her daughter Dayanara Diaz comes to light. So next week, we will be getting some backstories about the Diazes. We will be getting a backstory about Aleida and Dayanara. We'll find out a little bit more about their traumas and their dynamic and how that all comes into play in and out of the prison. That should be interesting. We also will get some more time with some of the other characters that we haven't seen so much as of yet. So that should be fun. Well, that's it for this week. Thanks for hanging with me in Yadda Space. Don't forget to comment your favorite lines from the episode and let me know what your personal rating is for this week's episode. Again, mine was a little bit low. It was a 7.5. But I am really curious to hear what you guys think. Thanks again for joining me on the journey back to Litchfield. If you aren't already, please make sure you are following the Yadda Space Pod on your favorite podcast platform, YouTube, TikTok, so you don't miss out on future episodes. Also, like the theme song says, it's Yadda Space with 2 E's. Okay, thanks for listening. I'll catch up with y'all next time here at Yadda Space.
Hey, welcome friends to Yadda Space. I'm Yadda here, let's set the pace. This is a rewatch podcast, so let's begin. Orange is the new black is where we dive in. Taystee's wisdom sets the tone. Jose's heart feels like home. Nicky's got that quick one fire. Morello's love of love lifts us higher. Spoilers everywhere, so be warned. Super fast, please come aboard. Susie's special mind, and all these ideas, because they think if everything's truly as it is. Oh, 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 oh. Oh, 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 oh. Oh, 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 oh. Yeah. Oh, 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 oh. Let's kitchen rules the game. Glorious strength, she keeps the flame. Alaida's hustle never quits. Looks the towns are gems every bit.